Hi guys, I'm Jeremy, and today I'll talk about my last fishing experience in Alaska and some of my afterthoughts on the whole experience. I had worked up there 2 seasons doing purse seining, gill netting, and one crab job. And then I finally got on the boat I wanted, which was the Sea King. And so I'll go through the story now and some of my afterthoughts. I hope you enjoy. Cheers. The third and last season, then I eventually finally got a job on the Sea King. And so I went up there early. I spent some time at my boss's place. We went up his plane and stuff. And then we did some work on the boat for a week or two. It wasn't super crazy or long. We painted and did some regular stuff. And yeah, then we headed out 4 days on, 1 day off. Paul really hits it hard. So we're working all day, which is good because that's how you make money. And at least he was an honest skipper. A lot of these guys are supposed to pay the 10%, and they really don't. So he was one of the really only honest guys up there that actually pays you what you should be paid, which is one of the main reasons I wanted to work with them too, because I knew regardless we'd make something. So yeah, June was full on, really hardcore. And then with that week off in July, they went halibut fishing. He had his son-in-law or another guy come and help him with that. I didn't go on that trip. That's like an easy $7,000 too, but I just ended up hiking around the island and stuff. And then July was pretty mediocre. And then in August, there was no fish on the escarpment, so they never let us fish in August. So that season wasn't too bad. We mostly hung out at my boss's house that season when we were in town, and that could be tough too because he needs a lot of attention. Like he could even wake me up in the morning and be like, "Oh, look at this YouTube video of this guy playing bluegrass or something." It's like you're kind of beholden to whatever he wants to do all the time, even when we're off. Even if it's not boat work. So that was kind of got a little old, after a while we were like, I just want to hang out at the boat. And then he'd come down to the boat and, he'd be drinking real heavily. And all of us would be, to be honest. And, but especially like sometimes really overboard with him. And even sometimes we were doing work on the boat and he was running some of the hydraulics. We were like, Jesus, someone could get hurt if he fucks something up. And it was funny too, because, August came around, we weren't doing any work because we couldn't go out fishing. And he's a big procrastinator. So we're sitting there for days and days not doing anything. And eventually you get kind of lethargic. And you're just waiting to get on the flight to leave, really. Because you're probably not going to fish. You've already, watched your boss play guitar 1,000 times and hung out with the same people all summer and watched the same Elvis videos 250 times. And so everyone's jonesing to go home, And he's procrastinating. And then he was thinking like, oh, I should, put in new floors in the house. And so, we're flying out, let's say on a Thursday, and it's like Tuesday night. He's like, let's put in the floors. So Wednesday morning he gets, oh yeah, let's get in the floors. So we run in to get all of the equipment and all this stuff to redo, take out all the rugs and put in wooden floors. And I don't mind doing it for the guy and everything, but it was just so last minute after we'd been sitting around doing nothing for 3 weeks. We could have just did it in all these days, but he's been drinking and this and that. Yeah, so that was really obnoxious to do that at the last minute. But whatever, we flew out and, whoever got a job with him always was rehired for the next season unless it was a big issue. And, he had even said if the season was slow, he'd make sure I was on the halibut, so at least I'd always make something if I went up there with him. And I asked him that question the next season. And he ended up, after I bought the plane ticket, because I was living in Taiwan at the time, so I was going to fly to Anchorage and then Sandpoint. So after I spent like $1,000, he at the last minute changed his mind. I guess he hired some kid, like his dad wrote an article about him that was positive, and so he owed that guy something, so he just let me go like that. And all the other guys in the boat were senior for many years, so yeah, totally thrown under the bus. So that's pretty much the story of how things go. That first season I did make a few thousand, second season nothing. That third season I made, 26 grand, so it was great. But then I thought I'd be going back and I didn't, so in the end, it's not always worth it. So as far as other reasons why he might have let me go, like I have a sense of humor. It's a little edgy sometimes and sarcastic. So all the guys kind of understand it. He did in general, but maybe didn't appreciate it. Like I remember that day I just mentioned we did the floors, and his son-in-law was kind of like in the morning. He's like, oh, I have a stomach ache. I don't want to, I can't do anything. We didn't give a shit, whatever. Calling the day off. He's his son-in-law, you get some benefits in that way. But when we finally finished doing the floors and stuff, his son-in-law asked, he's like, oh, can I go up to the burger place? And, so I drove him up there and we came back and he had a burger and a bunch of beers. And it's like, man, your stomach got a lot better today, huh? And, of course everyone laughs. It's not that bad, right? And like, my boss and one of his buddies who runs a boat on the other time during like the winter and stuff, like kind of walked out there. Kind of, it was like, give me a break, dude. Like, he totally took advantage of being his son-in-law, and I just made like a small joke, and that upset. And also when we were at the airport, like he's the kind of guy, he needs a lot of attention. So all season, that's why it was tough being around him because, most guys are kind of the strong, silent type maybe, or like they're angry on boat. And when they're in the town, they go back to their families. But he kind of needed us around all the time, need a lot of attention. This guy who's always on the phone talking to people. So we want to leave at the airport, and we're waiting for him to get off the phone for like 20 minutes. And it's like, so we all just left to get on our flights. Like, we'll talk to you later, dude. Like we've been dying to get on our planes and like, get away from you, to be honest. And so he probably didn't appreciate like we left without saying goodbye or whatever. So yeah, that's the that's kind of how the story goes. So this is something you got to consider if you're going to go up there. It's not going to be super easy to get the job, get on a good boat, make sure you can make good money and everything like that. Like I said, the oil industry, at least you're going to get paid. Now, I did like my experience up there. We got to see a lot of cool places. It's much more of an adventure, I think, than maybe, working on a rig or something like that. But for monetary reasons, you might be better off in the oil industry. Or maybe different places in Alaska are better. The only thing I could say that I might have changed would be maybe I would have gone to the Southeast. There's some idea that like let's say black people or Hispanics or Asians or different people that, they believe that white people, let's say, are keeping them down or discriminating against them or throw them under the bus and this kind of thing. I went up to a native village, and maybe there's some truth that like they don't feel as bad throwing me under the bus for some of those reasons, So maybe if I worked for like some guys from a similar background, they would have been less likely to throw me under the bus. I don't know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure this kind of thing happens in the industry in general. Like people cheat people are awful. But like as far as like having me like buy a ticket to go up there and like at the last minute change your mind and not pay for my plane tickets after I'd known them for like 4 or 5 years, I mean, that's pretty pathetic in my opinion. But yeah, that's the way it goes. So anyway, I hope my stories were informative for you and you can think about if you really want to go commercial fishing or not. I don't regret it. I think it was an amazing experience. It was probably tougher than the Army for me, physically and mentally in many ways. But certainly very rewarding. And so if you like this video and it was helpful for you, like it and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.